Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPad 5th generation and see how this particular iPad holds up in 2024, particularly in the later part of this year. Now, the big thing I can definitely tell every single person watching this video, number one, is that an iPad 5 might not be the iPad I'd recommend the average person to go ahead and buy. It really does not make any sense to go and buy an iPad like this anymore. It makes a lot more sense to go and buy an iPad that is still supported with software. And we'll talk about that throughout this whole entire video. Now, on the outside of this iPad, the good news is that this is still an iPad that looks pretty good. I think Apple did a pretty good job with this iPad when they first made it. You're getting a 9.7-inch IPS LCD panel on it. The resolution of this panel is actually pretty high. And if you are going to go through and pick up a device, it is a really nice looking panel. I'm a fan of it. I think for the most part, if you are going to go through and pick up a device, it's pretty good, not too many issues with it. But keep in mind in a few things. One, it is missing out on a lot of things that we have on devices nowadays. Like we're not getting a high refresh rate on this panel. We're getting a basic type of layout. There's not anything super insane here, but it gets the job done. And I don't think there's like too many issues that I have, necessarily with this particular panel. Now, on top of that, you're getting a charging port at the bottom. The build quality of this iPad, it's definitely an older styling of iPad because you have a lot of bezel and the home button and all that, but it still feels like a fairly expensive, iPad. I think that is a nice thing going on for this type of tablet. The fact that you can buy it doesn't cost a super amount of money, but it isn't it's not a terrible performing device by any means at all. So I think from that side, that's kind of interesting. You're also still getting basically, aluminum back. You're getting your single camera setup on the backside as well. And overall, from the build quality standpoint, as you can probably imagine, it's not the nicest looking thing in the world, but it's not a terrible thing. And I definitely would say for a lot of people out there, it probably still is like really, really decent for a lot of people out there. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there too. Now, when it basically comes down to the one area where I really am not the biggest fan of this thing, it's the software. So the software of this thing, it's basically done getting software support, right? That is kind of the issue that we're in. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense to go and buy an iPad like this when you can go and buy an iPad that's still supported with software, that still has updates, that still has a future ahead of it. This iPad doesn't really have a future ahead of it, and that is the problem. So that's why I'd probably recommend a vast majority of people to not purchase an iPad like this, because you're already in a situation where this thing is going to be stuck. It's not going to be getting future software updates. And that kind of mixes in with the performance too. This thing has the Apple A9 chipset inside of it with 2 GB of RAM. That's about the same chipset as something like the iPhone 6s. So you have to ask yourself, the iPhone 6s, which came out in 2015, would you feel comfortable buying and owning that type of phone? If the answer is yes, then, by all means, go ahead and use this, device. But if the answer is no, well, then that's going to be kind of an annoying thing, right? Why go through and buy this type of iPad when you can go ahead and purchase a different type of iPad that's going to be giving you an overall better experience? So that's just, again, another one of those big things to keep in mind here. Now, in my personal opinion, I think the iPad 5 is a good iPad, but I just don't think it's worth buying, right? I don't think this is a good iPad anymore. It was when it first came out. I just don't think it's a good iPad anymore. And it makes a lot more sense to purchase another iPad that is still going to be supported with software with the future ahead of it. So think of things like the iPad 9th generation, even the iPad 8, iPad Pros that have came out in the last 4 or 5 years. Those ones are better iPads for sure, rather than this thing. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.